Enjoy the show. 4,000 here from Pelops land against 3,000,000 once did stand is a quote from your description of the inscription on the battlefield. In Barry Strauss's version of the story, he says there are 7,100 Greeks and 150,000 Persians, which differs greatly from what you have stated, which is 3,000,000 Persians and 4,000 Greeks. Can you please explain this possible embellishment?
As I have previously stated, I have done much research on this battle and had visited the site myself countless times in order to obtain the information that I have gathered. Through the stories of the direct recollection passed down from Greek soldiers present at the time of the battle has given me a strong theoretical basis to my theory in addition to my previous findings.
In your article, you state that the dead were buried where they fell, and with them the men who had been killed before those dismissed by Leonidas left the pass. The other article, however, states that the dead were left where they were to rot because of the overwhelming numbers and the ability of the Greeks to pick up each of them and bury them. Evidence in my time suggests that because of the bones and other artifacts having been recovered in disarray, it is difficult to draw the conclusion that the soldiers were buried. Were the soldiers buried, or was Barry Strauss right when he said that the Spartans that fell were left?
Nobody can be certain as to exactly what happened to each of the soldiers, especially with your evidence that is many centuries old. According to the evidence that I have gathered, which is much more recent to the battle than that of your century, it draws the conclusion that the Spartans were buried. The reason that the bones and other artifacts that you have recovered in your time is so inconclusive might be because it shifts and disintegrates with age.
I see. Now, how do you feel about the harsh upbringing that the Spartans were and still are put through in order to become warriors, or about the way that the weak newborns are disposed of?
I do not want to embellish too much on the way the Spartans choose to run their society, but I will add that even though the training was harsh and the selection process was ruthless, the Spartans were the people that saved the Greeks in the Battle of Thermopylae. That said, I do not necessarily believe in the methods used to dispose of the weak newborns or the torturous circumstances that young children have to grow up in. The weaker children, I believe, can be made stronger through training, and people should not be so hasty to throw away a Spartan life.
Absolutely. Also, in Barry Strauss's version of the Battle of Thermopylae, he states that the Persians voluntarily fought in the battle. However, you say that in your version of the story, the Persians were whipped into war. You state that many of the barbarians fell. Behind them, the company commanders plied their whips indiscriminately, driving them on. Can you please elaborate?
Well, I believe that because the Greeks were putting up such a fight, many of the Persian men were becoming wary of their opponents. Even if they may have voluntarily come to the battle, thinking that it would be a quick victory, they began to become cautious and question whether or not it was a suicide mission. To keep the men going forward and fighting, I believe that they were whipped into moving on.
Well, thank you very much for your precious time. I'm excited to pass on this valuable information to the people of my time. It was most interesting to meet with you and discuss the Battle of Thermopylae with someone so knowledgeable. Once again, thank you for answering my questions, and I hope to meet with you sometime again in the future. Stopped. Wow, that was quite an adventure. Thank you for following along as I traveled back in time to witness a very important individual in our history. Tune in next time where we will be covering the South Korean legacy of James Van Fleet. That's not gonna work. 4,000 here from
Oh, Wanda!
4,000 here from Philip's land against 3 million. One stood stand. Can we start again? That was like,